French in the wind.
On the last episode of WildChild, you find us about 40% of the way through our 120 nautical mile sail to Cape Canaveral. With light winds, we threw the spinnaker, and as the sun was setting, Lexi went up on deck to douse the spinnaker, put it away, and prepare for night sailing. It's kind of a cool sailing moment.
Oh yeah.
We just removed the spinnaker and pulled out full 100% Jenny because it's easier to handle in the night. The winds are squirrely, so we're motor sailing. If the wind allows, we will. There's sunset on our starboard side to the west, and what's really cool, also moonrise on our port side to the east. So it looks like we're gonna have a full moon sailing tonight, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the moon right now.
It's beautiful.
Are you guys seeing this on the camera? What is blocking the moon? The moon has like a smile.
Yeah. it's a
That is weird.
that smile is gone now.
So that way tonight, no matter what the winds do, WildChild will be better prepared for it. If we get enough wind, if it goes to 6 or 7, we can turn off the motor and just use the Jenny. If it isn't windy enough, then we motor sail. Let's go look at.
Do we still need the whisker pole?
Anybody that's a sailor knows that sunrise and sunset are a weird time for the winds. We were at like 2 and 3 knots of wind, so we dropped the spinnaker. We're now at 9 knots of wind. SOG5, but that's from the motor. Wind angle is good though, so maybe we will raise the main. Maybe we can sail through the night. Yay, let's try that. It's hard to tell how much of that is apparent wind that we're generating though, because the boat speed paddle wheel is not working. It's all gummed up. So the boat can't calculate boat speed over water, so it's not calculating the difference between apparent wind angle and true wind angle. So our boat speed's getting added on to the actual wind speed. So even though this says 9 knots of wind, in reality it's probably 9 minus 5. Probably it's only 4. But, you know, that's the complicated stuff about sailing, fans. We're running out of light here, but
Beautiful.
that's the moonrise. That's the sunset. We were motoring with Jenny because our winds were at less than 3 knots for the last several hours, but when the sun set, the winds came up, so the engine's actually in neutral now and we're sailing. Wind angle's good. You know, let's turn this off. Lock that up. So we are now engine off. WildChild is sailing 7.3 over 4.7 we can live with, 6 over 4, and she's kind of beam reachy, which is a good point of sail for her. So generally we don't go into the night with full main, we always have it reefed, but there's only light winds expected, nothing strong for hundreds of miles, so I don't know, let's see what happens. Go WildChild. The sun sets and the moon rises and WildChild sails into the dark again. We had heard like a week ago that NASA was going to launch a SpaceX rocket a week ago. What we didn't know is they didn't launch it. It was scrubbed 3 times. NASA is planning to launch the rocket tomorrow morning. Do we have a preventer on that main?
No, I'll go and put it on.
There's no preventer?
No.
We probably should have a preventer. Every sailboat has their own safety rules laid down by the captain. On WildChild, our rule is you never go on deck at night if you are alone at the helm. And the other rule is, even if the other person's out there, you never go on deck without being tethered in at night. No, you're over the bottom lifeline. It's got to go straight to the tow rail, not over the lifeline.
What's the angle?
No, I don't care. Put it under the lifeline.
Under?
Like straight down to the tow rail without going over the lifeline, yes. Around midnight we had lost the winds, and you can hear that we have the motor on, but we don't want the main to jibe. She wants to go. Hold on, let me hold it. Okay, come back.
Okay.
One of the interesting things was when I was down below on VHF 16, the Coast Guard called out a security warning for Cape Canaveral, and we're going to Cape Canaveral, you know, tuned to channel 22 Alpha, so we did. So I guess SpaceX is having a rocket launch tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and they close off the ocean, I don't know, for like 50 miles around, like offshore. So if the rocket fails, you're not in the splash zone. Problem is, you know, we're a slow moving boat. We're, you know, 65 miles heading south straight to Cape Canaveral at, you know, 4 or 5 knots. So we're actually going to be in the rocket launch zone during the rocket launch. This was a really weird and difficult thing for me to deal with. They might close a huge section of ocean in the morning, maybe, if they launch the rocket. Problem is, I don't have a pause button. WildChild is in the ocean and is going south. The area is so huge that I can't get out into the ocean to go around it. I called the Coast Guard several times to inquire about it. What are the limits? What are the rules? Is it closed or not closed? What do you mean it might be closed at 8 a.m.? They'll decide at 8 a.m. Or what am I supposed to do right now at 2 o'clock in the morning? My very tired first mate's been up all night by himself. He did from midnight to 6 a.m. and it's time for him to go to bed. As the sun rises, WildChild finds herself inside the waters that might become the restricted zone in a couple of hours. We're about 10 miles offshore, and we're not moving south very fast. We just don't have any wind. If even half of the forecasted winds had shown up last night, we would be much further south now. I love that my Sony Handycam has 60 power zoom lens on it. WildChild is motor sailing south as fast as she can. She's sliding peacefully by NASA headquarters, where in an hour or so they're going to launch a rocket from shore. Here's to hoping, fingers crossed, we get out of the way on time. Morning, guys. So behind me is Cape Canaveral, and there's going to be a rocket launch in like 2 hours. We're actually in the restricted zone, like don't be in this area after 8:30, so WildChild doesn't move very fast. We just entered the zone a little while ago. I mean, what else are we gonna do? We have to keep going. But that's Cape Canaveral, and that's where the SpaceX rocket is about to launch from. It is 7 o'clock in the morning now. They said to get out of the security zone by 8:30. And the southern border, like boundary, is about 8 miles away. So I've increased the RPMs on the engine to near max to push us as fast as we can go. We're up to about 5.5 knots under motor. We'll just clear the security zone around 8:30. I really don't want to get in trouble with the American National Security and all their crazy, I don't know, rules and people with guns that control this. We're really not. We're just Canadian cruisers. We're not trying to cause problems, but it's an overnight passage. Like, we had very little winds. We've been, we expected to be past this point by sunrise, but we had very little winds, and WildChild doesn't motor very fast. So we sailed at an average of 3 knots most of the night. Like, half the night sailed at 3 knots, half the night motored at 4 knots. We just didn't get the wind or speed that we expected, and now we're kind of caught in the security zone. Good news is it should be a spectacular view of the rocket launch. Bad news is the gunboats might come to yell at us. Uh-oh. I really hope the engine doesn't overheat. This is us. This is Cape Canaveral. This right here is the southern boundary. So we have to get past that. There's like a line from that ship links to there, kind of going that way, like extends out in a cone. So I'm trying to hug around the shoal to get at the bottom edge of the cone. We want to get out before they close it. Let's turn off night mode. And that's Cape Canaveral there. If we zoom out, that's the port we want to get to. And we got to get out around the shoals to get into Cape Canaveral. But I got to get past this to get out of the security zone, which extends way out like this. Way out like this. Like here. Morning, Coast Guard. This is WildChild back on 2-2.
WildChild, Coast Guard Range Control. Good morning, Captain, again. As long as you can maintain your current course and speed, the safety managers determine you'll be fine for the launch. If you can muster any more speed, that would be great, but at the minimum, maintain your current course and speed. Over.
Alright, range control, copy that. I mean, we have a little 4-cylinder diesel engine. We can try to push more RPMs out of it, but then we risk an overheat alarm, and I wouldn't want to lose the engine. I'll do my best to go as fast as possible.
Oh, WildChild, Coast Guard Range Control out, Roger, Captain. We don't want you to risk any mechanic or failure. So if that is not an option, I wouldn't risk that at this point. The worst case that you would have a mechanical failure. We'd rather you maintain your course safely. Over.
Alright, copy that. Sorry, last we heard this launch was on December 18th. We thought we'd missed it by days. We didn't realize it was happening until the Coast Guard called last night. We apologize to any inconvenience to the people on the ground there, and thank you very much for your professional, polite, courteous assistance. We will maintain course and speed to get out of the area as fast as we can.
Oh, roger that, Captain. We appreciate your assistance. We'll have a helicopter up in the area. You may see them flying overhead. But we'll pass on the information. We'll continue to monitor your progress. And if you have any concerns, you can reach us. We'll be standing by channel 16 as well.
All right, back to 16.
Oh my goodness, stop the launch, put it postponed for tomorrow. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I'm sick. I have a cold. Yeah.
Lexi is horrified that we accidentally got caught in the safety zone. Michelle thinks it's hilarious.
Wait, what did we do, buddy? They were in Sunday helicopter to lift off the...
Oh man. It's overheated. I tried to bring the RPMs up a little higher to increase our speed, and the temperature went up to 200. The alarm went off, and we are kind of in the way of the rocket launch, and we need to maintain our speed. So I tried to get us a little more speed, but WildChild didn't like it. She overheated and started smoking. I don't know if you can see the smoke coming out of the engine. The helicopter came out and flew a few circles around us. doing a security check on us, I suppose, to make sure that we were no threat to their launch. The engine on and the compartment open, I feel really bad. It was not my intention. I didn't even want to see a rocket launch. The guy didn't even give a crap. We're just sailing what we would normally do. This rocket launch was supposed to be on December 18th, and then we heard that it was scrubbed. And then it was supposed to be, I don't know, a couple days ago, and then it was scrubbed. So we had no idea. And then in the middle of the night, as we're sailing here in light winds, we hear on the Coast Guard a security warning about Cape Canaveral rocket launch, and I thought, well, what the heck is that? So at 2 in the morning, I got a bunch of I have a terrible feeling we might be in handcuffs soon. They might be really upset about this. Oh boy. Video footage for you, the YouTubers, and to everybody at NASA and SpaceX, and everybody, I am so sorry that we're in the way. I mean, we're 5 miles offshore, but if they consider that in the way, then that's in the way. We were not trying to get front row seats. We don't even care. We're staying off Cape Canaveral. Range control called us to say that we're okay, like we are south. Yeah, Coast Guard range control, this is WildChild.
No, WildChild, Coast Guard range control. Just to let you know, we got 25 seconds to launch of that rocket. Over.
Alright, thank you so much for the warning.
Roger that, enjoy.
25 seconds. Oh. So that was range control calling on the channel 16 to tell us 25 seconds. Down to 15 now.
That's you?
Oh my god, I wasn't recording.
No.
Did you record?
Yeah, but I did something. No. How come?
We were both sitting on deck. We had both cameras recording. Both cameras stopped recording at the instant of launch, and both cameras started recording again a minute later. How weird is that?
Amazing. Woohoo!
The rocket launch was truly spectacular. We could feel it vibrating in our chests. The noise was awesome and overpowering and loud. Sorry, we don't actually have any footage for you. Sailor fans, this is funny. I don't really get it. So we had 2 cameras running for the launch and recorded the launch and the rocket going up, and then they didn't record. Like, you have our recording up until the moment of launch, then there's just a blank space where it just skips like 2 minutes of the rocket going up, and then it starts again after the rocket's gone and left, and you can see a little bit of the smoke in the sky and a little bit, both cameras. So, I mean, that's weird. Both cameras were running and both cameras missed. They stopped recording and started recording again a minute after the launch was over. What's that all about? I don't know if it's an EM Pulse or if that's like a NASA secrecy thing. You can't video their launches because they reset your device or something. That was freaking weird. That's an electrical engineer with like a radio communications background, and I have to tell you, that is fascinating. The ability to stop the cameras from 5 miles out and just sort of skip a period and then start recording again after the launch is over. NASA, what are you up to?